I guess let's get started. Sorry, is there a no man's land for me? Okay. So we're all here today to learn about how to use the cluster to do something, right? And we're all here because we have, I guess, some research objectives that need us to use the cluster. Now, what circumstances do you think you would need to use a dedicated computing resource like a cluster, right? A cluster is nothing but a big bunch or a big computer. So what makes you feel like you have the need to use a cluster compared to your own laptops or workstations? At what point do you decide, okay, I'm done, I can't do this anymore, I need to use a cluster? Anyone?
Takes a long time on your laptop or your computer.
Right. So there essentially it comes down to two things. Either you have too much data that it doesn't fit on your workstation, or you're doing some sort of computation that takes way too much time, right? And so that's when you use a dedicated computing resource. In our cluster is just one of many, right? But it's just the one that you happen to have access to. So the skills that we want to teach today are not specific, I guess, to using the Palmetto cluster. Okay, they're a more general set of skills. We'll be teaching you something about how to log into a computer that's not yours, how to log into a remote computer, and how to execute your programs there, right? And so this also translates to using, for example, clusters that are owned by national labs. This translates to using clusters on the cloud, right? So when you learn skills today, remember, you're not just learning to use the Palmetto, you're learning to use some dedicated computing resource. And that could be anywhere, right? It could be on the cloud, it could be from a national lab, it could be another university, or it could be the Palmetto cluster. So that's what we're trying to get you to learn. So the first thing, obviously, that you'll have to do is to log in to that remote computer. And many of you did that today morning on the Linux session, but some of you haven't done that. So how many of you have never, ever logged in to a remote computer? Okay, how many of you have never logged into the Palmetto cluster? All right, so that's just a handful of you. But let's talk about what that process is. The Palmetto cluster expects, or it runs a program called a secure shell server, right? And that server basically listens to people that are trying to log in. So your local machine or your laptop needs to run a corresponding program called a secure shell client, right? And so the client will actually talk to the server, and then they'll make an agreement about whether you're allowed to log in or not. So your laptop needs to run a secure shell program, and if you're running Mac or if you're running Unix or Linux, the secure shell program is already available to you. If you're running Windows, you need to download a secure shell client, and there are instructions on how to do that on the Etherpad on line 6. All right. So now I'm going to put up instructions on how to log into the Palmetto, and we'll make sure that everyone does that before we proceed any further. So the lesson material for today is available on line 4. Unfortunately, it's not very complete yet. I'll get to it. But for now, I guess there are some essentials there. If you click on today's lesson material and look at module 2, accessing the Palmetto cluster, there are some instructions on how you can do that if you're running either Mac or Windows. So go ahead and follow those instructions and make sure that you're able to log into the cluster. Again, if you are unable to do that, if you have trouble following along or if you need help, put up a yellow sticky on the top of your laptop like that so that I'll know to come help you out. And if you're doing okay and if you've completed the task, put up a blue sticky so that I know that we can proceed. All right?